Welcome back to the Mind of Marie. Today, I am joined by an author who has mastered the art of deadly comfort. A.L. Jensen is the mind behind the hit Hygge and Homicide, a book that proves you can have your cake and solve a murder too. A.L., it is such a pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be back.
So, you've explored various corners of storytelling, but Hygge and Homicide feels like it's found a very special home with readers. Was this world born from a need for more coziness in your own life, or did the mystery come first?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I think it was born from the need for cozy. And I was actually thinking about writing a romance a series. And then as I was thinking about the characters and the setting and all of those things, a dead body appears. Okay, it became a mystery.
That sounds like a fun little starting point. So, Hygge is a Danish concept of wellness and warmth. How do you use that aesthetic to mask or perhaps highlight the darker elements of crime?
Yeah. Well, I'm Finnish Canadian. I'm sort of deeply embedded in Nordic culture. I love Scandinavian culture. So the idea of hygge, it was, such a lovely concept of warmth, coziness, feelings of contentment. And, when I thought about writing this, like what turned it into a mystery, I thought, what a nice contrast between having a place that embodies all of these things and then this terrible thing happens. And, the character Minna needs to figure out what happened so that they can maintain this lovely event center they've created, this B&B, and in this quaint small town. And they don't want this business to not even get off the ground. So it was kind of a nice contrast. And I just thought it would be really fun to write about Nordic design and Scandinavian culture and all of those things.
That's amazing. So, the cozy mystery genre is more popular than ever. How do you keep your investigative voice distinct in such a crowded market?
Yeah, there's so many great cozies out there, and I love reading them. I'm reading one right now in the Highlands. I read one that took place on a train in Australia. And so I think what maybe sets mine apart is this setting, which is a Northern Canadian setting, and also the fact that it is leaning into this Nordic concepts and cultural ideas, which I haven't seen anywhere else. It might be out there, and if anyone else finds or has written or read some Scandinavian cozies or some Nordic cozies, I would love to know about them because I'd read them too. But so far, I haven't found them. So I thought, okay, this is something that's a little different from what other people are doing.
Exciting and unique. So, in Hygge and Homicide, the town itself feels like a character. How do you build a community that feels safe enough to live in, but dangerous enough to host a murder?
Such a good question. So I created this fictional place called Lakewood in Northern Ontario, outside of, several hours outside of Toronto. And it's very recognizable to me. It's one of those communities that I've drawn from lots of places I've traveled to and, these great spaces where they have lovely main streets with old, vintage shops and, family owned businesses and that kind of thing. So I thought, okay, this woman is coming back from Toronto in the big city. She's coming back to her hometown. And, you're coming back to a place that you feel is safe and comfortable and warm and inviting. And, this murder happens on her doorstep. So, there's a little bit of an attitude towards her that perhaps she's the one who brought crime into their town, which of course is not true. But if a couple people say it, you sort of think, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for this. I need to make sure it's solved. Right. So it gives her a little bit of an impetus to actually try to figure out what happened. Even though the police are working on it, she is like determined, I need to figure this out for everybody, for the business, for her friends, for her family, and for the town itself, because summer's coming and so is tourist season, and we can't have a murder on the loose.
Absolutely. And readers love an underdog. Why do you think the amateur sleuth is such an enduring archetype in your work?
I think it's because we can see ourselves in those characters, right? Like, I love a great mystery where there's a professional private investigator or a police officer. Those are fun because you get to see behind the scenes. But I like the amateurs too because we can kind of step into their shoes. Like, we don't really know anything about this, but also we have a good eye for detail and we know how to solve puzzles. And I feel like we could just slip into those shoes and imagine that, if that happened in my town, maybe I could solve this mystery too. I think it just makes it relatable.
Yeah, and fun that way. So, For the aspiring writer, how do you salt your clues throughout the story so the ending feels earned but not obvious?
Yeah. So I think that for me, I know not everyone does it, but for me, it's important to plot before I write. So I like to know, who did it. I like to know who the suspects are, why they're reasonably a potential suspect, why one person could be a red herring. So I kind of know all of those things before I write. It doesn't mean that the story doesn't still surprise me or that sometimes a character will end up a little bit different than I planned them because they decide they're going in another direction. But I kind of figure all of those details out beforehand because then I can make it more authentic. If I'm kind of discovering it as I write, I think I'd probably trip up more and make more mistakes. So I'd prefer to map it out and then I can really play with writing the scenes. And like I say, sometimes the characters decide something else and then I work it out from there. But yeah.
So you've been vocal about protecting your creative sanctuary and avoiding the performative side of the industry. How does that privacy fuel your productivity?
Yeah, I think it's so important as writers that we do make sure that we have time for ourselves, both for our writing and also for our mental health. So, things like taking time to exercise and to walk and to be in nature, I think those are equally as important, but also protecting your time for writing because the world, there's always something else somebody else needs you for. Like there's always a list of things you need to do for somebody else. So while I always prioritize my book coaching client work, that's important to me. I make sure those things are well taken care of. I also prioritize my writing and make sure that that's going to happen as well as making sure I'm getting my time outside with my puppy and going for a walk because otherwise you just don't fill your well and it's really hard to help other people and fulfill those other obligations.
Yeah. So we're seeing a massive trend towards low stakes entertainment. As someone at the forefront of this, why do you think we are so hungry for these safe mysteries right now?
That I totally think we're all in need of some lightness at the moment. I have been writing historical fiction with kind of dark themes, loss, grief, love, all of those kinds of, often set in the background of war and other really difficult times. And while I love historical fiction and I love delving into those time periods and those characters, I also, as a writer, needed something lighter. And I think it's just indicative of the time that we're living in that there's a lot of news. Every time we turn on our tablet or we watch the news or listen to the radio, there's something else that is just heavy. And I think that's why we need in our entertainment, in our reading, in our television and movies, like a respite from it, like just a something to take our minds off the heaviness and remember how to laugh and enjoy and be delighted and feel like, all the other parts of being a human being that yes, we have to pay attention to the world and what's going on and we have to struggle with all the things that are happening in the world, but we equally have to find joy in our day too. So I think that's why we're all leaning towards entertainment that is actually entertaining and doesn't necessarily go to sort of the darker places, which are important, but maybe we need a little break right now.
Yeah, we all need a little bit of escape and light right now more than
Yeah,
any.
absolutely.
Definitely need that to restore our sense of hope. So, how does the concept of home influence the way you write about justice and resolution?
The concept of home and justice and resolution. That's a good question. And it's making me stop to pause. Well, I have Minna coming home to her town of Lakewood where her mother lives and her daughter actually joins her adult daughter, Sophia. The saying goes, you can never go home again. And that's true and not true, right? You can come home. I have done this. I've lived away for a decade and come back to my hometown. It's the same and different. The people are the same and they're different. But there's something about a place that can be so deeply ingrained in you that you really need, like when something goes wrong, to seek that justice, right? Like you feel deeply in that you want to be protective of a place as the same that you are with people. So, a whole community can be devastated when something happens collectively. And it's that sense of justice that they have together about a place because it's so important to them. So I think a home can mean a lot of things. It doesn't have to be the place where you were born. It can be the place that you settle and the place that you create. And it can be the people you're with. But definitely all of those things are important for, who you know you are and who you want to be and how to ensure that you protect those people and those places you love.
So, Hygge and Homicide is a perfect gateway for new fans. If you could describe the perfect pairing, a drink or a snack to go with this book, what would it be?
So I think I would choose Minna, the character's favorite things, which happen to be mine too. Chai latte, which is her favorite drink that picks up at Boreal Beanery, the local coffee shop. And also a korva puusti, which is cardamom cinnamon bun, which is so good. And it's like a Finnish cinnamon bun that is delicious. And so I think that's what I would pair these with. So grab a book and a chai latte and a cardamom bun, and just and a blanket, be cozy and enjoy.
I could just feel that viscerally, like just like a warm, big hug, and that sounds
Yes,
like a great time.
yes.
So, what's next for your characters? Are we staying in this cozy corner of the world, or are you planning to move to a new setting?
A good question. Yeah, no, she's actually staying with her new business. Book 2 comes out in April. It's called Midsummer Marriage and Murder. And Minna and her her business partner and best friend Christy are hosting Grace Bradshaw's wedding to Jack. And, they're going to have it over midsummer, which is in mid-June. And in the Scandinavian countries, midsummer is a really big celebration with a big bonfire and midsummer crowns made out of flowers. And so they're having this sort of midsummer wedding, but of course, something not so good is going to happen. We're going to stick with the location. We're going to stick with Hygge House, which is sort of slowly being renovated over time. And there's going to be all kinds of different events happening at Hygge House, which is great fun for me because I can think about what kind of event can I have and what's going to go wrong.
That sounds like so much fun. You got some really good ideas coming in the pipeline. So, my final question, what advice do you have for the writer who is afraid that their story might not be up to par, might be too simple or too quiet for the modern market?
Well, you know what? I think the truth is that there are readers for everything. And sometimes it's difficult to find those readers. But write the story that you need, write the story that you want to write. Maybe it's quieter, maybe it's for a particular group of people, and that's just fine. If you want to reach a wider market, absolutely, there are lots of platforms and individuals that can help you rewrite to get something closer to what is maybe more commercial. But also, I feel like you will find your readers and they will love it. So just keep going.
I can completely agree with that. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a delight to peek behind the curtain of your cozy world.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just wonderful to be here again.
To everyone listening, go get your hands on Hygge and Homicide on Amazon or at your favorite local bookstore. It's the ultimate rainy day read, and as you heard, the recommendations for the latte and the bun, it sounds like it would be a perfect way to spend your weekend. And remember, the mind is the most important story we'll ever tell. Until next time, thank you for listening to The Mind of Cy Marie.